What is up, everyone? I'm Jamie with Three Little Goats Homestead, and today me and my husband Jesse, who is off camera eating right now, we're gonna make some cheese and some butter because we have quite a bit of extra milk. Susan ended up calving while I was in the hospital, and we just started to wean her calf, and she is a pretty heavy producer, so we have lots of extra milk, which means we can finally make some cheese, which we haven't done in a long time. So we're going to start with 4 gallons because I can't remember how much my big pot holds. If we can fit another gallon in there, we will. But first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to skim off some of this cream, because in the cheese making process we'll lose some of this heavier cream in the way. We don't want that to go to waste. So we'll actually skim some of this off so we can make some butter as well. So let's get started. Alright, so in order to skim all this cream off, we're just going to use a ladle. And we're going to set this aside because when I make butter with cream, I prefer the cream to be at about 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit before we start churning it. That just makes it so we're not churning it forever. Kind of speeds up the process a bit. Alright, so I've skimmed majority of the heavy cream off of here. I'm still keeping some of the lighter cream in here for the cheese, so because I can't lift any of these, I got my muscles here so he can get them all in this jar. We'll see how many will fit. Alright, so all the milk is in our pot. We're going to turn our heat on to medium low. We're going to stir this occasionally until it comes to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm making a queso fresco. I have a cheese making book I use the recipe out of, but it's the same recipe as the cheesemaking.com website, and I'll link that down below if you want to check that out. So while this is slowly coming to temp, we're going to work on making our butter. Alright, so all of our cream is in here. We're going to put our splash guard on because we're making butter and it's going to get messy. So I'm going to turn this on to low at first, and as it starts to whip into whipping cream, I'll slowly increase the speed. Alright, so we've got all of our butter solids. We didn't save the buttermilk. I'm tired and I didn't think to put a jar underneath it to catch it all. So we're just going to plop this all into some cold water. That way we can get all of the butter fat out of it. Because the more butter fat you can get out of it, the longer it'll last. We're going to add a little bit of salt to our butter because the salt will actually help prolong the freshness as well. Alright, now that the salt's been incorporated, we're just going to wrap it in some plastic wrap and pop it in the fridge to harden, and it's ready to use. Alright, so our milk is just at about 90 degrees. We're at 87, but I'm going to turn the heat off, and the residual heat's going to bring that up to 90. I am using MM100 mesophilic culture. It's what I have on hand. There's different types of cultures. We're not going to go over those right now. So because this is a freeze-dried culture, we're going to add it in. We're going to let it sit for a few minutes so it can hydrate. That way you don't get clumps in your cheese. Now we're just gonna let that set for a few minutes and then we'll stir it in and let it do its thing. Alright, now that it's been 5 minutes, I'm just gonna take my spoon and I'm just gonna go in up and down motion to get this all incorporated in. And then we're going to set a timer for 30 minutes and let it ripen. Now that the 30 minutes is up, it's time to add our rennet. So I'm diluting it in a little bit of water. And it just makes it easier for it to incorporate into the cheese. And then we're going to add this in while we stir, because you want this really well incorporated, but you don't want to stir it for too long. So just around 20 to 30 seconds in an up and down motion. Alright. And now we let the rennet do its thing for 45 minutes. Alright, so it has been 45 minutes, and I can already tell that I've got a clean break, but the way you want to test it, the easiest way is just to take your knife, cut it, and then turn it. And if your curds separate like that, how it's nice and clean, you know you are good to go. So now it's time to actually cut our curds. So I'm just going to run my knife all the way down to the bottom. So I don't have one of those fancy tools that will cut the curds horizontally. So I'm just going to use my spoon and just run it down carefully. Now that our curds are cut, we're going to actually let this sit for another 5-10 minutes to let them rest. That way they don't release all of their fats. We want them to kind of just heal a little bit along all the cuts. Alright, so it's been about 5 minutes. I'm going to actually put my thermometer back in now, because we're going to slowly heat up our curds to 95 degrees. I cooled down a little bit. I'm currently sitting at 87, which is fine. So I'm just going to put this on a low setting. And we're going to stir these to make sure they don't mat up into a big cheesy blob. And I'm going to just go ahead and take my knife as I come across any really big ones still and cut those down. Alright, so we've been stirring our cheese for about 20 minutes and we're at temperature. So I'm actually going to just let this settle for a few minutes so I can ladle some of the whey off. I'm going to try to save as much of this whey as possible because there are still solids in there that we can make into some more cheese. If you've watched any of my other cheese making videos, you know the whey is not a waste. You want to make another cheese out of it, and it's a really simple cheese. So let me get this settled, and I'll bring you guys back in a few minutes. Alright, so my curds have been settling for a little while. I've got a colander lined with a cheesecloth and my pot for ricotta cheese. So since I can't lift this and it would make a big mess anyway, we're going to slowly transfer over, and then I'll have Jesse pour everything else in once we're done. Alright, so I thought I would have enough with space with this little pot. I do not, so Jesse went and got my other smaller cheese pot so we can drain the rest of this cheese so we can keep the whey. So I had to go get another cheesecloth because we were running out of room on the colander. It will drain down and flatten and make room, but
this is a good problem to have.
The initial pour was a lot because we still have a lot of cheese in there.
Oh yeah.
Let me see inside there. Yep. Alright, so this is all of the cheese that we have. I'm going to just combine these into one now that they've drained a little bit, maybe. Jesse's over there panicking that I'm going to spill the cheese. Alright, you got clean hands or dry hands, honey? Can you get me some salt? We're going to, I got the measuring spoon. We're going to add in our salt a little bit at a time. Alright, so now we've got our cheese salted. It's time to get it into our mold. I don't know, maybe the medium mold will work. Alright. Alright, so we got our cheese and our mold. We gotta put the flour on. I might need Jesse's help to get the cheesecloth full tug around it. Might have to unscrew the top. I don't know if it's gonna fit in there. Alright, so we've got our mold in the cheese press. I like to just use a piece of foil to kind of direct everything into the sink so it can drain there. And then we're going to press this for about 2 hours. I'll pull it out, flip it, press it again, and add a little bit more weight, and we'll continue to do this until the cheese is ready to go. Alright, so I've got all of our whey in this pot, and I'm going to go ahead and add in my thermometer again, because we're going to bring this up to 195 degrees, and we're going to do this not super fast because it will burn, so you want to keep a really close eye on it. Alright, so we are at 195 degrees, and some of the curds that are left in here I've already started to break away from that whey. But we're going to help it along, and I'm going to add in an acid. You can use vinegar, you can use lemon juice, you can use citric acid that's been dissolved in water, whatever you have on hand. I'm going to add that in, and I'm going to give this a really good stir. I'm actually going to let it set for about 10-15 minutes to cool down before we actually go to strain it out. So once that's ready, I'll bring it. Alright, so I let it sit for a little while to cool, and it's hard to see because all the curds are kind of down at the bottom. But everything is separated, so now we're going to drain it off into a cheesecloth. Now again, I just have a colander here with a pot and a cheesecloth, and that's simply because I can't lift this pot to pour it, so I have to do it a little bit at a time. Jesse's out doing chores, so I need to get this done. Alright, so Jesse came in just in the nick of time so he could finish pouring it for me. Alright, so the little colander just wasn't working, so we're gonna double up. We're gonna pull out the other colander so we can get this strained. So we're not doing this all night. Alright, so I'm gonna just let these drain here in the colanders for about an hour before I attempt to combine them and hang them up. So I'll bring you guys back in a little bit, but that's a lot of cheese. And we're going to just let this hang until it stops really draining like that. Once I get a really slow drip, that's when I like to pull it out, because I don't like a really dry ricotta. It's really up to you on how moist you like yours or how dry you like it. So I'm going to let that hang. It'll probably take a few hours, and then it'll be ready to eat essentially. Alright, yeah, alright. I can't squat to be in frame, so we're working with what we got right now. So it's actually the next day. We let the cheese press over into the evening, and then we pulled it out and put it in the fridge. So we've got a nice giant wheel of cheese, we've got our delicious butter, and we have our ricotta that I also pulled last night after it was done dripping. When I pulled it out, I weighed it then. We had just over a pound of ricotta. Let's see how much butter we have. Alright, so for our butter, we got just under a half a pound. We actually probably got a half a pound, but we may have used some yesterday. And then for our cheese, I'm going to lay down some paper towel. See, oh, it is heavy. All right. So our cheese, we got, make sure it's all on there. Yeah, just over 4 pounds of cheese, which is amazing. Alright y'all, so that is what I've got for you guys today. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. It really does help. And if you guys want to see more cheese making videos, hopefully I can get to making some of those. Just let me know what types of cheeses you'd like to see down in the comments. And also, everything that I used in this video will be in the description box. I actually have I believe I have a storefront with all my favorite cheese making stuff, but I get most of my stuff from cheesemaking.com. So if you want to check all of that out. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, we put out new videos every week, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.